Thank you so much, Vikas, for taking time out for us, for this special series that we have, which is called Tete a Tete, which is also, an interview with the CEOs and leaders and movers and shakers of the industry. And, you're certainly one, of course. So, we have this series, where we try and bring leadership perspective from CEOs and leaders and thought leaders of various industries, and would love to pick your brains on a host of topics, and see what have been your experiences like there. But really appreciate you taking time out on such a busy time of the year for you, Diwali. But for the audience here and for everybody, Vikas is one of the most dynamic CEOs. He heads MMTC Pamp, which is the largest bullion trader in the country.
Yeah, refined. Yes.
So and of course a name that everyone knows, of course, and Vikas is someone who's worked in different industries. He's been long known as a very known face in the consumer ecosystem with organizations like Gillette. He's also been a telecom professional for a long time of his career with organizations like Airtel. And then last, I remember him as an educationist with Pearson before he took this plunge. So of course he brings different industry experiences, and because that's where I would love to first jump into this conversation. And I always enjoy when people come from different industry backgrounds. I'm myself a product of that, and there's a lot of different experiences that you bring on the table. So what have those experiences brought to the fore here at MMTC Pamp? The different industries that you've done. What is it that really sort of culminates here for you? Would love to kind of, pick your brains on this.
Certainly. So, firstly, a big thank you, Agam, Piyush. It's always a pleasure to be engaging with Executive Access. You all bring a whole load of fresh insights and perspectives. Every time I engage with you, you're actually throwing back thoughts at me, which keeps me thinking, and I'm really very thankful for it. I'm sure this conversation is going to be another such conversation. So, in a way, looking forward to it. Thank you again. I will break my career into three broad phases. All right. So, started in the consumer space, and started in Lakme, and then a long time in Gillette.
Right.
I think what these organizations at that stage of my career taught me, which was the formative years, was the power of fundamentals. The respect for the limited resources that you have, and the power that the team brings to the table. So, we were all about that daily rigor. It was all about from morning till night. It was about passion. It was about getting things done. But it was getting things done with limited resources. It was not something where you had, you were shooting in every direction in the hope that numbers would come in and then you would have a nice time at the end of the month. It was about really making every day, every minute count. And this is where, as a team, I think the bonding which came in, the planning which came in, the strategizing which came in was invaluable experience as far as I'm concerned. The next phase came in telecom. In those days, telecom was, in a way, what we used to call a land grab situation. You would remember that, it was about just go there and get whatever you can. Hyper competitive was a phrase which was used many times. But what telecom taught me again and again, the learning of limited resources, people, etc., there are a couple of more metrics which came in, which is the power of speed.
Yes.
Sunil used to always mention speed over perfection, and that stayed with us for life. It was about getting things done. It was not about the best strategy or the best execution. It was about a nice balance between the two, which got you to do better than the other guy. Alongside, I think, innovation was extremely important. So, how do you design products? How do you design, distribution? How do you design your network architecture? How do you learn the critical metrics on network to ensure interference is the least, the gaps are the least, in building, highway, etc., covering 300,000 square kilometers in Andhra, etc., etc. There was a lot of detailing that one needed to get into. And then at the end of the quarter, you will remember you're measured on RMS, revenue market share. Has that gone up, gone down? What's the other guy done? So it was a continuous learning and evolution. I think the last piece is education, where you launch a product. That product takes a couple of years to build. And, so for example, the first edition of Kotler, which was launched by Pearson globally, I'm told took between 8 and 10 years to pen down. If you don't get that product right, that's sunk capital. You're not going to go back and say, hey, let me tweak something or not, because that's 1,000 pages you've invested in and it's gone out. So getting things right became extremely important. The fundamental piece which tied this all together was the core metrics don't change. Get the basics right, get the team right, get the overall balance between strategy and execution right, be smarter than the other guy, and things will happen. Things will happen the way you would like them to happen. And that's exactly what we're trying to do in MMTC Pamp, and I hope things are going well. So that's the journey for you, Agam, in terms of how life has moved for me and what my learnings have been.
And which one have you enjoyed the most? And I know all of them might be your babies, but
Yeah.
if you were to pick one, which one did you enjoy the most and why?
Telecom, very clearly.
Speed over perfection.
Speed over perfection. And learning to manage a P&L and a balance sheet. The sooner one is able to grapple these numbers, here again, we used to be told that once you set up a sell site, that is, for example, sunk capital of about 50 lakh rupees, you set up 100 sell sites, that's 50 crore rupees, and, you set up 1,000, you can keep doing the maths. You get that wrong, you're not changing the location of that site. That's sunk capital. So we used to be told you got 50 factories there, 500 factories there, ensure that you get your productivity out. There was a whole load on the financial side that we learned there. And it was also my first leadership assignment. So in terms of leading circles, leading teams, trying to achieve our objectives together as a team. So it was a humongous learning journey. So in a way, telecom is very close to the heart.
And when you look at some of these learnings in the sectors that you work with, when you see MMTC Pamp from outside in, right, when you were coming in, what's the landscape that you saw, Vikas? What was the opportunity that really excited you? So give us a little bit of a take on the industry that you joined now, and what are the real fundamentals at work here?
Certainly. So what we say here is that India has almost has what you would call a divine relationship with gold. We really, if you go back, heritage, etc., mythology, any which way, everything was measured in gold and silver. So, as far as we're concerned, that's a relationship, hopefully, which will go on forever. Now, MMTC Pamp brings a whole host of strengths to the table, which the country at that stage was not possibly aware of. So, for example, the only refinery with an LBMA accreditation, the purest gold and silver in the market. There are factors beyond caratage which define purity. So 24 carat is not the purest, but 24 carat with 99.99+% purity is the purest. Craftsmanship, future value, building a digital ecosystem, so an ambition that we set for ourselves is, for example, trying to be the most trusted precious metals ecosystem. So, which means whatever be your need, we have a product or we have a solution for you. In a way, it was encompassing a whole host of stuff that I'd been through. So there's B2B, there is B2C, there is D2C. In addition, there is trading. There is a very heavy piece on treasury management, something that one never did directly in previous roles. A lot of it on capital deployment, managing a state-of-the-art refinery, rolling out new enterprises, subsidiaries. So it brought so much to the table that I felt this is an opportunity which definitely is something that one should think about, preferably try and be a part of. Happy to say that, it's been a wonderful 4 years. So, there is so much here that, so much of excitement here that I couldn't be, thankful enough for it.
Challenges drag you here or excites you here to be here. But how did you find, because this was a very niche segment and very new to India, except the government. So how did you find this place after joining? What challenges did you face?
So I think thankfully a very strong team. All right. So from a learning point of view, global team, India team, the learning curve was not too long. All right. However, part of the challenges, Piyush, which came in was COVID. Yeah. So I came in when COVID happened and the lockdown happened, and suddenly you're sitting on 6 tons of gold, which does not move. You can do your finances. I think our daily interest cost is running into some 20-25 lakh rupees. So you try and multiply it in 2 months and whatever, and you can imagine the P&L pressure which comes in. You're trying to engage with the regulator where everyone's trying to learn how work from home happens. Challenges were humongous. But when you have a solid foundation in terms of people with you, I think then once again navigating it is not so much of a challenge really. It's about really deciding what do you go after, who does what, and how do you pull the pieces together. So strong learnings, great team, a lot of patience. The company, the group is very patient. There is no unreasonable pressure that we need to get things done as of yesterday. It's about allowing you to do things at your pace, which is correct and which is good for the business and good for the people. So I think there will always be stresses in a system, but I think it was always positive.
And taking the point on challenges and trying to see this from a little holistic standpoint as well, because when you look at the SWOT, what is it? How would you kind of bucket this in terms of a SWOT analysis for your business, for MMTC?
Sure. So I think the strength very clearly is the product. All right. So very, very clearly, a world-beating product, a world-class product. Governance, transparency in a sector which is still evolving. Governance, transparency, extremely important. The government respects you for it. So I think from that point of view, really good. I think the opportunity is trying to build the brand and the presence. Mm-hmm. So people. Sometimes I think it's MMTC, Pamp gets missed out, parts of India, everyone knows you, parts of India, possibly no one knows you. Threats is very strong, established competition. If you go to South India and if you see the powerhouses, the brands that you have there, they've been there for many, many decades, not years, and very well respected. So in that context, trying to establish your niche and trying to establish your proposition is not so easy. So I think by and large, it's been a very interesting mix. But then again, it all comes down to the priorities that you choose for yourself. If you, like they say, try to boil the ocean, you'll be at it forever. So you choose what do you want to go after, and if you can make every month hopefully better than the previous one, journey. Once the momentum picks up, one has to do something stupid to break it. And once the momentum is on your side, which thankfully seems to be now, it seems relatively easier than it was maybe a few years ago.
How do you see technology playing a role in it?
Oh, that's a big one, Piyush. That's a humongous one. So this sector is relatively more traditional. And I think this is, like with most sectors, this is really where the big disruptor comes in. All right. So we talk about democratic access to gold and silver. We talk about traceability. We talk about having a proposition for the micro investor. We talk about safety and trust. So with MMTC Pamp, what happens is the ecosystem is very nicely defined. You've got a refinery, state-of-the-art with state-of-the-art security systems, insurance, force majeure, you name it, we have it. No one else. There's no other refinery which is an LBMA accredited refinery. LBMA is the highest accreditation that you can get in the world. You're now trying to ensure that for that micro investor who likes to buy in small chunks, which could be a few rupees, tens of rupees, 500 rupees, you have a product. These are products which typically are investments for a milestone at a later point in time. Trying to ensure that this entire catchment size goes up and people are able to participate in it is really where technology plays a huge role. In addition, allowing you the liquidity in your investment is very important. So if you were to compare yourself with a financial instrument, you can buy and sell anytime, equity, mutual funds, as the case may be. Traditionally, if you bought gold and silver, in the form that they were, which is jewelry, you would lose almost 15, 20, 10, 15, 20, 25% of the value in making charges. Then when you go back to sell, should you wish to convert it to meet a milestone goal, you lose more. In that context, when you bring in something which is more technology enabled or something which is much more liquid like a coin or a bar, which is what is a mainstay in our portfolio, it ticks that box also, which makes it so much more friendly from a customer point of view. So Frankly, the big differentiator, technology. India is a country about building access, and you can't build access without technology. So,
And
When it comes to manufacturing process, Industry 4.0, 5.0 being discussed. So, you said that the state-of-the-art manufacturing facility you have. So, does that mean that it is all integrated one, A, B, it's all automated one to take care of it?
oh yes. So at every stage, the equipment that we use, the processes that we use, the quality metrics that we use, the efficiency metrics that we use, is all designed to ensure that we are bringing out the best possible in the most efficient way possible. So, when you talk about a world-class refinery, when you're talking about an LBMA accreditation, there will be max 65, 70 refineries in the world. So you're talking at that level. So, everything is calibrated. The processes are very, very sharply defined. Even the where you source your doré from, metal, which are the mines you will work with, you won't work with, everything in the value chain is very sharply defined. And now we're building further onto ESG and recovery, which means a circular economy, which means you are once again a responsible contributor to the economy, corporate citizen. So we believe we do, and we can add even more value to the national exchequer, and that is something also a direction in which we would like to see our journey move.
And because on that point, what I would also love to know, and I'll pick your point when you said, you try and boil the ocean, you'll be at it, right? So it's important to pick and choose your priorities, right? So when you look at your priorities for this organization, what would be your top 3 or 4 priorities or strategic levers that you want to press in this business?
Very nice, Agam. Yeah, so these are questions which are, one has to really think it through, because the option set is fairly large. I think first and foremost, brand. So, trust and reputation. Reputation, corporate reputation. So, when you say brand, MMTC, Pamp, you're talking about the highest levels of trust and, governance. So I think that very clearly sits in as, a key priority. Responsible corporate citizens, so governance, ESG, recovery. This is about completing the loop in a very responsible way. So again, circular economy is something we are the first in India in this sector to have gotten into a formal ESG definition and commitment. So with SBTI, we've agreed our carbon footprint, goals, the reduction in carbon footprint. We're talking about a 47% reduction in carbon footprint by 2030 for scope 1 and 2. So we are the first here. Globally, our group, MKS Pamp, is the first in a global context to talk about carbon footprint reduction, and we follow after that. So obviously many steps ahead. The group has also launched what are called carbon neutral products. So, there's actually, you can define that, what is the carbon content, and preferably zero in terms of these products coming in. I think India is not yet ready for it, but hopefully very soon we should be able to talk carbon neutral. Circular economy in terms of pulling back from waste, e-waste, industrial slag, sweeps and ashes. We've set up a unit on recovery from which we can actually not only recover precious metals, which means in a way you're recycling precious metals and you're not just taking it out from the earth. That becomes a very important piece, and responsibly disposing of what's left behind. So there again, you're contributing significantly to India. We know that India is going to be amongst the largest e-waste generators in the world. So here again, it's a very small, humble step being taken. So that's a second priority over here. The third is building revenue streams which help us balance volatility. This is a product which is so strongly benched in the global context. Any incident anywhere in the world has a huge impact as far as the price of gold and silver is concerned. So it is so closely pegged in those basket of products which define, global economy and local economy movement. So to give you an example, Israel-Gaza unfortunately happened and gold goes through the roof. Last year, Ukraine happened, gold went through the roof, demand came down. So, when the price is up, people sell. When the price is down, people buy. How do you hedge your position so that you are ensuring you are not at the mercy of these volatile fluctuations or swings in the sector. I think this is where building a balanced portfolio takes a very large role in our life, in our existence. So broadly, I will put it in these three buckets, Agam and Piyush. All said and done, it's not an easy one. It's a fair amount that one needs to be navigating and working upon.
And from a bouquet of choices, you've taken very interesting choices. You're talking about circular economy, which is in itself a subject which is taking a lot of attention now, and great to see someone who is wanting to be ahead of the curve and not doing it just because you need to do that. And of course, given the volatility in the business, you need to hedge your bets. So that's very reassuring to hear, Vikas. We learn a lot from you as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So for some time we discussed that the leaders 70-80% time goes behind man management, people management. With your experience when it comes to factory, right, and per se the precious metal factory, the worker, the people who are working there, blue collar, white collar. So what difference you see from your other experience and how you're managing that?
So that's again another interesting one from you, Piyush. I think the first thing I would say is one should have the humility to be able to say you're always learning from your team, regardless of what they may be staffing and handling. And the manufacturing stroke refining setup that we have is not an easy one. All right, so trying to continually grapple with chemistry, elements of the refining process. Turnaround times, how do you optimize here, potential automation opportunities, it's a very big conversation. We have a lot of team discussions. We are continually reviewing what we do. The group, MKS Pamp, they are advising us on a lot of areas that we should be looking into. A lot of the decisions and capital investments that we make it together. So, if you're looking at enhancing or augmenting a part of the entire value chain, we by and large work it together. But once again, we try and break it in easy buckets. So first and foremost, health and safety. If anything needs to be invested on health and safety, no questions asked. Just do it. We are not asking any question on value, approvals, etc. I speak to our global CEO and he's just go ahead and do it. And I can tell you here, the number of presentations that I've made in my time here, maybe 10% of what I may have made in the past. It is thankfully, the environment is really very, very supportive. Number two, if you have equipment which is end of life, all right, end of life, end of support, once again, no questions asked, go and do it. So, because you're wanting to set the standards really that would always be looked up to in the Indian and the global context. You don't want to be following through at a later stage. Number three, now if you're talking about any further process or product, enhancement, then obviously we talk payback. And we say that, what is the time in which we would be able to recover our investments? And typically we try and work the usual 3, 4, max 5-year payback. Innovation is a large part of this exercise. So, and in gold and silver, every gram that goes here and there, it adds up to a significant amount. To give you an example, when we are polishing our coins to ensure that you get that spotless mirror finish, the dust which comes out when you're polishing, even that sucked back in, captured, and then it is recycled and put back into your, refining process and your output, feed for your output. So you really have to watch those little pieces, which add up to that one significant impact. So, which is very different from my past experience. It was not about so many little pieces to one big impact. It was about a few big pieces into one big impact. So attention to detail, it's a very, very different level. Thank you.
That is what probably in every discussion is high on resilience.
Yeah. No, yes. You need to have the patience and staying power.
And I think on that segment, Vikas, it'll also be great for us to know, and for all the audience as well. What's the DNA that you love in an individual? And I mean, it could be a reflection of what you see in others. It could also be what's the ideal DNA, that you think is a key to success.
Uh, Agam, let me try. And sometimes one has to be careful that you don't set the bar too high. I think first one is ambition. Set yourself a goal which is aspirational. You may not get there, but you will get further than you would if you were to take a safe number and try and get to getting there. So, and again, in our scheme of things, set an ambitious goal. You get somewhere there, you don't get it, does not mean that you missed. It means you've done an outstanding job. So that's the first one. I think the second one here really is about leveraging the power of the team. So there is a lot of interdependence here, and every little bit adds significantly in this journey, which is ultra high value. When you're talking about a top line which runs into billions of dollars, if you're not managing all the unit metrics, smartly enough, it can have a significant impact at the bottom line at the end of the whatever is the defined period. So that is important. The third is, I will go back to resilience. There is a lot of persevering which needs to be done, because when you're trying to change the way a country engages with a product or the way a country looks at a product, that takes perseverance and resilience. So for example, if I think 24 karat is it, and it's I've got the best possible, and I'm going to save that 700 800 rupees, versus someone who says no, it's not 24 karat, but it's 24 karat 99.99 plus %, then trying to get the person to appreciate that extra value that he or she is missing, and since it's an investment at a later stage is actually a net negative, that's not an easy conversation, so that takes a lot of persevering. So I think these are the pieces that I would broadly put in. All said and done, I think no journey can be complete without innovation. So, how do you do the same thing differently, better, or how do you find better ways of doing the same thing, whatever be the case? That is something that you're continually having to think about to, again, build output, build outcomes.
And, interestingly, this question came to my mind, but you earlier spoke about the fact that the relationship gold has with the country. And, we're also seeing very different demographics at play with us. I mean, we are the youngest that we've ever been, possibly.
Yes.
And, there is a movement towards financial, independence, financial instruments. There's a whole different psyche that COVID has brought along. So yes. How do you see that change? Do you actually see a change in the way people are consuming gold or interacting with, some of your products?
Once again, Agam, very interesting. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So historically, if you go back a generation, if I think about my parents, the investment would have been primarily jewelry. You'd buy jewelry yourself, as the case may be, with the, not the direct plan, but an indirect plan that at some stage it'll have an appreciated value, and it'll, be a security net as needed if needed, or it is something is inheritance for someone going by. You really hit the nail on the head in terms of, the new generation. So if you just say Gen Z, or, the young adults or the millennials, you can choose whichever terminology. Post-COVID, there has been a significant shift in the way people engage with precious metals. First and foremost, financial advisors have started formally saying that precious metals should have at least a 5 to 10% role in your portfolio. In the past, these statements were not made. So there is a formal statement which is going out by most advisors. Number two, people have realized that, listen, if I'm going to invest only in jewelry, then there are two problems or two challenges. One is, like I said before, you're losing a large chunk of your investment in making charges tomorrow, and secondly is liquidity. So tomorrow, if I wish to encash for whatever reason, and a lot of people do that, they may say, I'd like to exchange my old jewelry for new jewelry. There is a huge erosion in value when you go through this process. So the so-called Gen Z, etc., are preferring coins and bars. We're talking about a 1% making charge, liquid, it is sealed, certified, stamped, essayed. You go to the person you bought it from, or you go to an authorized, jeweler, outlet, whatever, and it is exchanged at the current market price. So you don't really lose.
And, Vikas, given the uniqueness of the product and the industry and the competition, it'll be great for us to also understand your product strategy. How do you envisage this in the changing times? And what's your product roadmap for the future?
Yeah, thank you for that, Agam. Actually, this is really the exciting part. And again, coming from a consumer background, doubly so. Traditionally, the talking specifically on the coins and bars space here, the options have been you just mint a regular coin. There's a motif on it. It would either be on something thematic as a national emblem, or it could have a religious connotation to it, and that's it. It's almost like a one size fits all. What we've tried to do, and I believe it's a long journey, and I believe this is really where good fresh thinking is called for, and the team has got some really interesting thoughts here. Is how do you build products which are tailored to smaller segments and not one pan national approach. So, for example, there is a classic series, there is a devotional series, there is more in terms of the national icons heritage series. We were ideating very hard in terms of if you were to go into sub-segments, geographies, what will work in the east, what will work in the north, what will work in the south, how do we break it up, how do we look at national opportunities. For example, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav last year, it took a lot of effort getting permissions from the different ministries involved, because we were using national emblems. So Ministry of Home, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Environment, etc. We finally got the permissions, and we created products in gold and silver, which were an absolute sellout. And we realized for the first time, the impact it can have, not so much on volumes, but more on the brand, because this was something which came back to us from the international diaspora also. The big thing about this segment is we are also catering to a global Indian diaspora. So, they want the Indian themed products regardless of where they may be. So we get demand from the US, we get demand from New Zealand, as the case may be. And this is one of our pitch to the government, that if they were to allow 24-carat export, there is a significant amount of contribution that we can make to the national exchequer. So if the vision is to go from 3 trillion to 5 trillion, this sector alone could possibly put 100 billion on the table. Now, that's not a small number, which is where I think for the product team, sitting and ideating on this is super exciting. Now, the programs launched, for example, you leverage social, and you say that, all right, design a product for an occasion, and the best product goes into production, and we recognize your efforts with whatever the due recognition. These kind of initiatives have started gaining steam, gaining momentum, and we're finding that the incrementality that these products are bringing to the table is significant. So, without getting into exact numbers, if 3.5 years ago we were doing X in this segment, this year we're likely to do 8X in terms of volumes. When you're talking 8X and running into tons in gold and silver, you can do the maths yourself in terms of what's the P&L impact. So I think it's an ultra exciting space from a product strategy point of view. And we've possibly only scratched the surface, Agam. So we're continually ideating on possibilities, but this is an area where really, harnessing the power of a larger team, a larger ecosystem is something that one should really be pioneering and, making it a way of life.
Looking at the situation, the way you have grown, I think there's different segments. Other organizations are also getting into it. So how do you see that challenge to cope with? Because you being the first, your talent is at.
And how do you stay ahead of the curve?
From a talent point of view, so very clearly, I think the industry per se would be following. I don't want to make any statements there, but would be following specifically in this particular space. We need to ensure from a talent point of view, we are ring fencing, we are providing adequate opportunities from a learning and development point of view, from a growth point of view, from an environment point of view. I think all said and done, there is a lot of work to be done. We are a young organization, so we also define ourselves as there is a core backbone, which is bullion and trading, and then there is the rest of the organization, which is really like a startup. So you're talking about people who really have that mindset and spirit of a startup. So these are two different cultures, Agam, to your point. So, how do you kind of get these two to coexist and, cross leverage and support each other is really some of the pieces that we ourselves are learning. It in a way takes me back to what we discussed initially. So that piece on resilience, that piece on speed, that piece on ambition, smart innovative answers. I think these are common underlying factors for most organizations. The recipe may change in terms of quantum of each of these elements, but some of these pieces are basic fundamentals which should be there. That's the way we are navigating it, and we hope to progressively. We are hoping at some stage our proposition should be addressing a global audience and not just a local audience.
Because how open is the organization, and you in particular, given the fact that you yourself a product of different industries, how open are you to talent from outside of the industry, and what have been your experiences thus far?
Oh, undoubtedly, Agam, diversity so important. Experience diversity, gender diversity. It is so important. So freshness of thought, questioning status quo. The questions that both of you put to me in terms of why this profile, why not another profile, why this value system, or why this capability set, why not something else. Exchanging thoughts on what are the best practices happening. Oh, that is so important. So if you really wish to continually evolve, then I think building the talent set in this manner is very, very important. There cannot be a stereotype.
And when you look at the leaders that you hire for yourself, Vikas, and the talent that you bring in, what are some of the must-haves, and what are some of the absolute no-goes for you?
So I think what's a given is that capability is a given. A certain experience at a CXO level is a given, so that the person is comfortable with operating to a particular expectation in a particular position. I think what's important increasingly now is a cultural fit. I think that is increasingly very, very important. So to be able to adjust to, we are an organization with a fairly large scale and scope, but we are still a small team. So the ability to be able to roll up your sleeves and dive in when needed, and at the same time pull back and empower your team to take over wherever you believe they are better off without you being there, I think is extremely important. The piece over here again is we are very multifaceted. So understanding, even if you don't have it, building that understanding from a legal point of view, regulatory point of view, compliance point of view. There are a lot of pieces here which one needs to be able to get a grip on. And I believe these are extremely important in a professional journey for anyone, because tomorrow, when you are leading at a CXO level, and given the way that the world is evolving, especially on risk compliance, governance, etc., this learning will be precious. It will be invaluable, and these are the pieces for any talent coming on board. In Pearson we used to call it always learning. I think it truly comes through here.
And some of the no-goes and absolute sort of things that put you off.
Oh, no. Teamwork is the big one. So anyone in a silo is unlikely to ever deliver anywhere, leave aside MMTC, Pamp. So I think teamwork is a big thing. Building energy, building winning teams. I think that's a given. So the corollary of that is automatically a no-go.
So I guess today people are talking about largely the stakeholder management, above and below.
Yeah.
So if that is so, to be very precise, this is what you're saying, that the stakeholder management is, if somebody is not good at stakeholder management, that probably it's a no-go for you.
I would actually say this goes beyond stakeholder. Stakeholder management in that context can be limiting. I think getting down to the grassroots and understanding the nuts and bolts of the business and being able to come back with a perspective, or at least an understanding of what needs to be done, or at least relate to that conversation when it's happening, is very important. So if you don't understand what's happening at the grassroots level, what the dynamics are, what's likely to work, what's likely to be an overkill, I think these pieces, and this is where getting your hands dirty is so important. yeah.
This brings us to our last segment, Vikas, and we're going to just throw a few questions at you and see how you respond. But just tell us what comes to your mind. I'm going to give you some choices and see how you react to them. You said speed over perfection. If you could choose one, what would you choose?
Oh, speed.
Strategy over execution.
Uh, Execution, inevitably, I'm assuming strategy is a given, so execution can vary. Strategy is something that you roll out, but execution can really vary across pockets. So if you can bring in a minimum level, it makes such a big difference.
Smart work over hard work.
Smart work.
That's interesting. And you said lone wolf versus team player.
Oh, team player any day, any day.
And also, it's always great to understand the mask. The person behind the mask, Vikas. And I think for us, for our readers, it also would be great to understand you, as a person in your downtime. Right? So how do you really unwind? How do you take care of yourself, mind and body both?
I love jogging, so I spend almost, without getting into days, I would be doing about 20-25 kilometers a week.
Oh, wow.
So that and every morning diligently, whatever be the schedules, that is something I hate missing. So and regardless of weather, so I need to, that is something which keeps me going. Weekends is by and large downtime, so with family, and by and large together as a family. So watch a movie, listen to music, whatever. So we love trekking. So going to places and discovering new options. Like my daughter's just thrown a crazy option of doing what's called, I have never heard of it, the W Trek in Chile, Santiago, which is going to take 4 days to reach only. So, but she's promised that it's going to be an experience of a lifetime. Now that would be serious downtime. You get away from everything and you see, the beauty that the world has to offer. So we love to travel, we love to trek. So that's how we spend our time.
And your advice to youngsters on how to build a long-lasting, successful career, Vikas? How to take care of mental health, physical health. Given the intense pressures in which we all operate, what would be 2 bits of advice that you can give to people?
I think get the priorities right. That's first. You should know where to spend your time. Get the fundamentals right. When you have the fundamentals right, then life is a lot easier. You're not searching for answers. You may be thinking about asking the right questions, and working together as a team. It's more fun. It's more rewarding. So this is really, and yes, the process of learning. The process of learning is so important. So I see people around me. They're continually looking at new things to learn, something that I'm not so good at, so I must admit that. But that is so important because suddenly you see there's a difference in perspective that the person brings to the table versus what would have been the case otherwise. This is what I would leave at.
And what would be your advice to your 24-year self if you were to start all over? One word of advice.
One word of advice to myself. Oh, that's a tough one. No, I think I'm fine. I could have maybe prioritized or focused a little better. But I don't think I've come out the worse for it. It's been a very diverse, fruitful journey. It's been a demanding one. So maybe on that count, maybe I could have done better. But yeah, that's where it is.
What does work-life balance mean to you in today's world? And everybody keeps talking about work-life balance, work-life balance. Obviously a very eminent personality recently said about 70-hour week as well. But, what does that really mean to you in today's time?
I would say work-life balance is something which brings out the best in you and adds to your energy quotient. It is not something which drains you and leaves you depleted at the end of the day or the end of that defined time period. So, you could have an outstanding, energizing day at work and without even realizing, it's like, our conversation now, it's like, you learn from every piece that you do. It's not just about, broadly segmenting into office time and personal time and so on. So doing what you love doing. So therefore, you should know what would you want to spend your time on, and then getting that balance so that you are energized at the end of any defined time period. I broadly put it as that.
Great, Vikas. This has been a very freewheeling conversation, as was expected from you, as is your style. But thank you so much for taking your time out. Thank you for sharing all the pearls of wisdom. And like I said, we learn as much, if not much more, from you than what you do from us. So I think the thought that I'm carrying back today, at least, and what's really stuck with me is speed over perfection. And I'm going to certainly make sure that we do a decent job of that, when we go back. But, perfection is equally important. I'm not saying that. But thanks a lot. We know that it's been a very busy time of the year for you, and for you to take this time out for us. We really mean that. And it's been a great partnership with you, and look forward to more engagements with you in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Agam and Piyush, and to Executive Access and Ronesh, who we've kind of known for many, many years. You all have built yourself a formidable reputation, a very genuine approach in the way you partner with your customers. It's more a partner than really a customer-client relationship. Thank you for everything that you do for us, really, and thank you for this conversation. I'll leave some difficult questions for me to think about, but thank you so much.
In fact, pleasure is all ours that you spare time, as Agam said, and really learned many things to learn out of your entire discussion. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.